Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC Fight Night 186, Gane versus Rozenstruik. We're going to talk two free plays that we have on this card. You want to see my entire slate? Check out the link down below, WagerTalk.com. Have a package of 4 right now. Thinking of a 5th play that I want to throw on there, but take a look if you're interested. If you are not, we're definitely going to talk main event as well as another play. I'm just going to tell you also as well. So have 2 plays we're going to talk about, but before we get into that, let's talk about last week. We went 2-2, lost a little bit of money, hit our 4% play, missed on another 4% play, and as well as we did go 1-1 on the 3% plays. So the quickly going over it, 4% play we did hit, -110 was on Phil Haas. Crazy fight there. I mean, that was a fight where looked like we really had it pretty much in the bag early on. He did a really good job smothering him, doing a good job with the takedowns, and then at the end it looked like he was drunk. The way that he was walking around, it was almost like a newborn walking around the place. I mean, it was a drunk newborn. I think it was a mixture of. It was just kind of crazy. He almost blew it for us in the end, held on, gets us to cash in there. We're able to get that victory there. Also, Chris Dawkins was another play for us there. Ended up getting a nice play. Ended up getting the early knockout. I kind of wish I played that knockout. I was telling everybody I do like the knockout there. Played it a little bit more safe than I probably should have, but ended up getting the victory there. The 2 that we did lose on Curtis Blades. We had the knockout, which we did get a great price on it at +120. That moved to almost a -130. Didn't matter because we did not cash in there. He goes out there and gets obliterated early on against Derek Lewis. And then the other fight here that I think really costed a profit was Draco Rodriguez versus Zahabi. Now this is one that when I was watching it, it was actually going exactly the way that I thought it would. I mean, I really thought Zahabi was going to be timid, out for 2 years. Draco going to be the kind of guy going to, moving around, looking to stick it, looking to actually kind of move in tight, get a level change, had some nice combinations. And Zahabi did what he did for even 2 years ago, kind of backpedaling, looked unmotivated, almost looked like he didn't want to be in there. And Draco, I think, felt that. I think he, felt that, hey, this guy's backing up. I'm feeling myself. And he kept going for this crazy uppercut, a naked uppercut, didn't really disguise it behind anything. Ended up getting just dropped. And that's a bet that I honestly will place 10 out of 10 times. I mean, I still think that's the right side. Although we did not win, I really think that was the one that I would, without a doubt, do again. I thought the capping was correct. He looked terrible. That's a guy's a hobby who I will absolutely look to fade whenever he does step in the cage again. Hopefully it won't be in 2 years, and maybe we'll cash there. So we go 2-2 last week. Not the best, not happy about it. Again, have 4 plays up for clients. Link down in the description, and we will talk 2 free plays right now. So the first we're going to talk about here is, of course, the main event of the evening between Ciryl, Gane, and Jairzinho, Rozenstruik. So we're going to talk about first Gane. Now we've got the line now currently. We've got the undefeated guy -275 in Gane. You got Rozenstruik is somewhere around the +225 range, somewhere around there right now. He's 11-1. So we're first going to talk about Gane. Now 3 fights ago he fought Dante Myers, and this was a fight here where I thought that really it showed what Gane is capable of doing in the cage. I mean, really, he's a guy that, he's known for his striking. He's got that striking ability, but he really is a well-rounded guy, and I think it's very underrated. He's got submission victories. Even prior to this, he had a submission victory. He's definitely a guy that is not just that kickboxer. He looks like it. He's got that big stance, that big frame, and his snapping kicks are tremendous. And in this fight here, he went out there, and I thought he looked really fantastic. Going out there, pretty much overwhelming Myers. Myers did not really have the ability to kind of move around the cage as much. He was, the way that Gane moves, he's very light-footed, and he switches stances so well. It's really hard to pick up where the shots are coming from. He's going to be, southpaw, orthodox, very good when he does that there. And he was able to land these body kicks. And this is something I think he can utilize going into Saturday night against Rozenstruik, is just the way that he brings the, it's almost like, and actually, and I think it was one of the other fights that he actually talked about it, was that he actually is slow when he actually starts to throw the kick, and he wants to almost see where you're going to put your hands. And then he fires either a high body leg kick. That is just elite level striking. That is just such high level striking. And he was doing that with Myers. He was able to just pick Myers apart. Body kicks almost sounded like he was getting hit in the chest with a bat. Kept moving forward, rocked Myers a couple times in that first round. Even in that second round, he really pretty much dominated it. And then going into that third round, pretty much the same thing. And he almost couldn't, he was, you know, I gotta say Myers is taking a lot of shots. He definitely has got, you know, a chin, and he's definitely got, you know, some damage control where he's able to take those shots. But going later into that third round, he gets, and this showed again, this is what I was touching on just before, this shows again the ability that he has. Once he got him up against the cage, he said, I'm going to take him down, took him down, gets a heel hook submission victory in the end of that third round. Thought it was impressive. That's something that a lot of heavyweights are not going to be used to. A guy that moves the way that he moves, strikes the way that he strikes, and then can also get the level changes and the takedowns. That's really going to be a full package deal for a guy who definitely only has 7 professional fights, but he is definitely going to be moving up in the division. So he goes out there and gets the third round submission victory over Myers. 2 fights ago, he fought Tanner Boser. Now, I'm very high on Tanner Boser. I think Boser is really a great fighter. I thought that he, you know, although it was a really ugly fight that he had, his last fight against Orlovsky, I thought that it was just kind of an ugly fight to begin with overall. You know, thought he won it, but just kind of an ugly fight. But I think overall he has really got a nice skill set. I think that he's got some power. He's shown that he's knocked out some people. This fight here was, again, just another great performance from Gane. He goes out there, and I think early on you saw Boser, he felt the power. You know, he started backing up. He definitely wasn't able to engage. He stayed on the outside. The big part also was just the way that he kept his range. He kept the range out. He kept Boser on the outside, and he kept them at exactly the distance that he wanted the fight to be, which is the kickboxing distance, keeping him on the outside. Boser was trying to, you know, move around. He was cutting the cage off nice and trying to stay away from the power. And once he was on the outside, he almost looked like he gave up. He couldn't really figure out the puzzle. He almost didn't even want to engage. Boser didn't even look like he just knew he almost didn't have it later in that round, for that second and third round. He almost knew they didn't have it. Gane was just too much for him. He goes out there and gets a decision victory over Tanner Boser. And then most recently, he fought Junior Dos Santos. Now, this was a fight where I think you really start to see the pieces come together for Gane. I think the way that he, you know, early on, again, you see the way that he moves, the way that he's able to change from southpaw to orthodox, fire the kicks, have a slow developing kick, and then fire it in a different part of the body that you may not be expecting. He really almost threw Junior Dos Santos off. Early in that fight, you definitely saw that he wasn't, you know, full-on Gane was controlling the action from the beginning of that fight to the end of that fight. And Dos Santos, again, he definitely is not what he used to be. We've seen what he's done now. We've seen that he's not that guy anymore. But for a step up for Gane, this was a perfect fight for him, and he did exactly what he was supposed to do in this fight. Goes out there, his kick game again, landing the heavy kicks, and kept Junior Dos Santos at a distance. Now, Junior Dos Santos, he likes to box, he likes to get in tight, he likes to throw that big overhand shot, and this was really where almost Junior couldn't get in tight. He couldn't really find his rhythm, and he kept him on the outside. And that was where Junior, again, he does that weird kind of turtle up thing. We talked about that a little bit. I think it was the last show where with Overeem, the way that Overeem kind of turtles himself up. But going to that second round, it was the same kind of thing. And then, you know, Gane gets in tight, throws a hard elbow where Dos Santos said it was maybe not, you know, kind of, you know, maybe a legal shot. I don't think so. Landed it, dropped Junior Dos Santos, gets the ground and pound, puts him away in the second round. So Dos Santos loses, and Gane gets the victory in that second round. Now, on the other side, you've got Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Now, 3 fights ago, he fought Overeem. Now, this was a fight, and I know we've talked about this many times on this show, but, you know, this was a fight here where Overeem pretty much dominated the fight. And this was a situation where you do see the vulnerability of Rozenstruik. Now, he is definitely a guy that has the kickboxing. He's definitely a guy that's going to be out there. He's going to be able to mix it up, has the striking, has the boxing, you know, not scared to throw some leg kicks. You know, he mixes it up fairly well. But Overeem went out there and took him down early in the first, kept him down there. And when he's down there, it looks like Rozenstruik has no idea what to do. He looks completely lost. Overeem, again, not a guy that's really this takedown artist by any means. This guy that's going to have these you know, quick first step and get you down and take you down and ground and pound it. He's done it, but this is just not something that he is just this elite level. and he goes out there, he takes Rozenstruik down, took Rozenstruik pretty much out of his rhythm. There was maybe one round that I would maybe slightly give to Rozenstruik, so maybe going to that 5th round, it was 3-1, and then even late into that 5th round, I mean, it was pretty much over him, and Rozenstruik just could not get in rhythm, and I think that says a lot of bad things about Rozenstruik's striking. You know, Overeem is elite, but just not at this level. Not at this level. Not at this point in his career. He's not who he is. This is not, the roids Overeem. This isn't even, after that. He is just such on a downturn, and he finally goes out there, lands the big shot in Overeem, drops him, kind of an awkward stoppage, where maybe, he probably would have put his lights out anyway, but it was almost Rozenstruik walked away with seconds left, and whatever it may be, but he goes out there, gets the late knockout victory at the end of that fight. You give him the victory, but as a performance-wise, I would completely downgrade in that fight, rewatching. I've seen that fight so many times because capping him, capping Overeem, capping Rozenstruik, keep watching that fight. He just did not look that good in that fight. So he goes out there and he does get the late knockout. And then 2 fights ago, he fought Francis Ngannou. This one, we obviously don't have to break down. This was just a slaughtering. This was one that I did have as a client play as a knockout for Francis Ngannou. This was just, he came through 20 seconds in, a blitz of sorts, and just completely battered him, put him up against the cage, dropped him, finished the fight. Don't have to get into that one because pretty much there's not much to talk about in that fight. It was a knockout victory for Francis Ngannou. Rozenstruik takes the loss. And then most recently, he also fought Junior Dos Santos. And I think this one here is, they both fought him, the same kind of way, pretty much. But I would say that Rozenstruik, there was, that first round, I would pretty much say was pretty timid on both sides. I mean, no guy really pushed forward, no guy really landed big shots, no guy really did too much in that first round. You would even hear kind of the corner guy saying, fire, you got to be first, you got to be first. They both kind of sat back. I mean, obviously, it's easier said than done when you're on the side of the cage, or you're me telling them to throw strikes. We got 2 heavy-handed guys, but first round didn't really, it was very close, not really too much going on. In that second round, Dos Santos, started landing some nice shots, and he did throw that big overhand right that we were just talking about when he fought Gane, and he was landing it. And that's something that you do see with Rozenstruik, that he does get hit, and he definitely has some lackluster, striking defense, because I think he's a little bit slower when it comes to an overall as a heavyweight. But you had Junior Santos, landed a couple jabs, and one thing about Dos Santos also in this fight was that he was just kind of throwing one shot. He would pepper one shot out. He would not really follow up with a combination that allowed Rozenstruik to kind of have a little bit more success, in between, in breaks. Never really threw the big flurry on him, and that was really where Rozenstruik had the opportunity to land a big shot, had him up against the cage, dropped him, and then again, JDS kind of, has his back to Rozenstruik, something he kind of even did when he got hurt against Ngannou. It was just kind of a weird situation there, but he was just obliterated by the end of that. Caught him again, dropped him, fight over, knockout victory for Rozenstruik. So there you have it there. So with that being said, you obviously take a look at these 2 guys. I mean, you've got Gane, he's high-level kickboxer. I mean, you've got the ability that he's got that high-level kickboxer. He has the power, overall skill set. But the thing, again, is that the grappling. And that's something that I think is really, obviously, it's not a hidden thing, but it's, I think, an underrated thing. Because since he's looked, he's looked fairly good on the last 2, he's looked good on the last 2 ones, on the feet, again, people talk about those credentials, but he has the takedown ability. And the fact that he's pretty quick. I mean, he is pretty damn quick for a heavyweight, and that's something that you just don't see. You don't see heavyweights move the way he moves, and he's always bouncing on his feet, always moving around, and that is, again, for somebody like Rozenstruik, who is a little bit more flat-footed, more boxing heavy. He is a kickboxer, but he doesn't really utilize his kicks as Rozenstruik does not utilize his kicks really as a weapon, almost. It's almost as a distance management and kind of to mix it up, but you don't really see him throw these hard body kicks, these hard leg kicks, high kicks, and mixing it up behind, nice combination. You just don't see that from him pretty much most of the time, and even against, Junior Dos Santos, he throw a leg kick, and it's almost a rangefinder. It's almost to kind of say, hey, I've got it, but just get you thinking about it. It's almost like if you're faking a takedown to kind of get you to just think about, okay, he's going to have some weapons lower. I need to start, you know, level changing my eyes. I need to start. So there's a lot more things that go into it. I think that's what Rozenstruik does, where Gane just has weapons everywhere, you know, on the ground. You know, his mixing up, the way he mixed up his combinations. He throws a nice head kick. We talked about his hard body kicks against Mays. I'm sorry. And that's one part too, but also the fact that he's shown cardio. And he's definitely been out there where the fact that he's moving around like that, and the fact that he's able to bounce around, throw nice combinations, it shows that he does have a gas tank. We've never seen him obviously in a 5-round fight, but this is definitely a nice setup for him going into this fight. Also with his 3-inch reach advantage that he's going to have over Rozenstruik is going to be big. At heavyweight, in the smaller cage, I think that's going to be a big advantage for Gane going into this fight. Now, you know, you got Rozenstruik. Obviously, he's another guy, solid kickboxing. He does have power. You know, and again, good boxing. He's got good hands. You've seen his power. He's knocked out, you know, multiple guys, a little chinnier kind of guys, but multiple guys that he's knocked out in the past, up until when he lost to Ngannou. But I think the other part is that the bad part of Rozenstruik is really the low output. He does not really have this big output, and and that's really going to keep his opponent off balance. He really throws a 1-2, looks for the big shot, and sits back. Doesn't, you know, it's a boxing heavy offense. When you've got someone like Gane who's gonna mix it up, who's gonna have all kind of difference mixing it up in the pocket, and also the fact that you've seen the vulnerability for him on the ground. And that's an absolute path for Gane in this fight. It's an absolute path for him. I mean, there's no way that Gane, you know, at a point, you know, maybe not right away, but at a point, is not going to go out there and fire a takedown. And again, just to get him level changing, maybe tire him out a little bit. I think, again, Gane has a bigger gas tank overall. So obviously, I do believe that Gane goes out there and gets his victory. I do have it as a play in a parlay. But the free play here is going to be a prop on this main event. And the thing here for me is that in a 5-round fight, smaller cage, you know, heavyweights, there's just, to me, this is really sets up for two guys that are not going to have much room to move around. I think Gane is going to dictate the pace of the fight. I think he's going to keep pushing forward. That's going to force Rozenstruik to throw, and I think also Rozenstruik, you know, he wants that. He's definitely shown to be more of a counterpuncher, but Gane is fine, really firing. They both at points early in the fight, you know, a little bit low volume, and I think it picks up from there. I think this is a great spot where you're going to find a submission victory for Gane, or you're going to find an opportunity for him to land a big shot. You know, he's got multiple finishes on his career. I think this is a great spot for inside the distance for Gane, and I got him right now at -135 inside the distance to get this victory in a 5-round fight, heavyweight match, in a small cage. I think it adds up to a really great price there. You're getting off the big number. I mean, you're getting somewhere, you know, Gane is somewhere around the -280. I'm seeing -290, -270, somewhere in there. You're getting off the big number. I don't think this goes to a decision. I think these two guys are going to look to put a stamp on it, to get a victory. I go out there, and I'm going to be taking Gane to get the finish inside the distance, -135. Now, the other play, and I'm just going to say it, not going to get into it, just going to say it, but if you want to see the entire, basically my breakdown, I actually have it up as a free play on WagerTalk, on my profile there, so take a look. You can definitely see that one there. If you want to see my other 4 client plays, you definitely check that out on my profile as well. So really the other one I'm going to talk about is Alexander Hernandez versus Thiago Moises. Now this one here, again, I'm just going to talk about it. I'm just going to give you the play. Hernandez is a -175, 180, somewhere around there, and you're getting Moises is around the +160 range. I like Hernandez here. I think Hernandez goes out there and gets the job done. I think this is stylistically a great matchup for him. I think the one thing that really pulled him away from certain things is really, I think he wanted to steamroll everybody. You know, he wanted to go out there and just steamroll everybody, and I think that was a really bad move for him, and he got completely pieced up against Cowboy. I think he completely underestimated Cowboy, and then from there, you know, he lost to Drew Dober. This was a fight also where, you know, people weren't really, you know, is Drew Dober that good? Now we're starting to realize Drew Dober is pretty damn good. So, you know, you had that. He's beaten Trinaldo. You also saw on the other side of it, recently he gets the first-round knockout. Obviously, he was supposed to get that victory. That was, you know, kind of a step down from here. I think against Moises, I think this is a fight against Moises where Moises is very poor on the feet, just does not have good striking at all, doesn't have the ability. And then you got on the other side also, his takedowns are not that great either. So I think you piece that together. This fight could really be stand-up. I think that Hernandez is going to be smart, keep his range on the outside, work his strikes, and I think that you're going to see in that first and second round, I think is going to be a lot of Hernandez offense, and then you're going to start to see maybe some opportunities where Moises can maybe get a little bit more grappling, maybe where Hernandez is a little bit more tired. That's where you're going to maybe see him maybe chip away in that third round. But I think early on, and even possibly a knockout, you're going to see Hernandez. I think this is a great stylistic matchup for him. So as my other free play, I'm taking Alexander Hernandez to win. So those are my 2 free plays for UFC Fight Night 186. If you want to see my other plays again for clients, please take a look down below, link in the description. And there you have it there. On to the next event. Looking forward to it. Definitely like, subscribe, all that great things. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.